Good evening, members and participants. I, on behalf of the Management Committee of the ICAI Bangalore branch, welcome you all for this study circle meeting on the overview of DPDP Act and significance of DPDP Act for Chartered Accountants. To speak on the topic, we have Shri Sudhir Goel. May I request Chairman, Bangalore branch, Senior Manjunath Mandu, to escort the speaker to the dais and present him a floral. Members, it's my privilege to introduce our today's speaker, Shri Sudhir Goel. Sudhir Goel is the founder and president of Cyber Vigilance Group, which is division of Mantraloka LLP, a firm that focuses on applied innovations. Shri Sudhir is an experienced IT professional with over 4 decades of industry experience. He is a mechanical engineer from Delhi College of Engineering and a PGDIM from the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. Shri Sudhir has worked in senior management positions with Infosys, Comsys and Emphasis BFL as a part of the career journey in India and USA. Having worked in senior leadership positions in India and abroad, Sudhir sensed an emphasis with the helplessness left by the CISOs when faced with cyber criminals and cyber threats. He observes that spending millions on the state of art on the cyber security products, services and professionals did not get the business success. That as an innovator, Sridhar decided to take action. He has written his book Cyber Vigilance, the art of staying cyber safe, the world's first on the topic, is result of that drive. In this book, Sudhir addresses the root cause behind cyber breaches and suggests suitable cyber vigilance solutions to mitigate them. Since data protection is an integral part of the Cyber Vigilance Group's mandate, the DPDP Act auditors training has been added to the part of CVG's offerings. Sudhir's presentation today deals on overview of the DPDP Act and its significance, its impact on the Indian industry and how professionals like chartered accountants can benefit from it. With that brief introduction, I present before you Shri Sudhir Goel, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for such a wonderful introduction. I feel honored to be here in the presence of so many professionals that I respect very much, who are the core and the foundation of the success of Indian industry. Finance management is always the backbone, and for all of you to keep working on that to make sure to support the industry to function smoothly is indeed very critical. My entire take, as we will discuss going forward, is based on the premise that I understand how chartered accountants ethos works for the industry. Okay. So you can see from the slide here that the focus is going to be how we can make the DPDP Act work for us. When I say us, I mean the professionals in this room. How can we think about bringing this Act as a part of our offering, as a part of our curriculum, as a part of our expertise. So first of all, I'll quickly begin with who we are. Cyber Vigilance Group, the one I represent, is a division of Mantraloka LLP, which is an organization that is focused on applied innovation and social impact ventures. And our mission of Cyber Vigilance Group is to provide knowledge and capability to enhance something which in the industry usually doesn't talk about, and that is cyber safety. Oh. I will tell you a little bit about the last part, why Cyber Vigilance Group is a little different from the traditional cyber security that you may have heard of in the organizations that you work for. Typically, cybersecurity is a collection of tools and solutions that you would have seen your organizations implement. You may have heard of terms like firewall, you may have heard of things like access management, and there are so many terms, so many solutions that industries use to protect themselves. They install these things and say we are cyber secure, right? You must have heard that. The point is, nobody is cyber secure given whatever is being done today, no matter how big you are, whether you are a $5 billion company like Microsoft or somebody, or you are a $100,000 company like an Indian small manufacturer, you are not secure. Despite having put all things that cybersecurity experts have told you to install. Okay. When I found that out, I was very perturbed because I was also at the facing end of it at some time. I said, what is going wrong? We are spending all that money, we are hiring very seriously educated, experienced professionals, and we are still getting hacked, right? So this solution lies in people understanding what is the problem. I realize that most cybersecurity people don't understand what is the problem. Okay? And there is no attempt at doing a root cause analysis of what is the reason that we are getting hacked. Right? Unless you know why you're getting hacked, you cannot stop it. But there is no concept of root cause analysis in cybersecurity. So that's what I started figuring out. That's how the genesis of my book. I have created a 5-pillar cybersecurity framework, cyber vigilance framework, which helps us pinpoint what are our weak points and then remediate them. So, cyber vigilance group is focused on root cause, and you will see as we go along, especially the second part of my presentation, that DPDP, application of DPDP, and the promise of keeping the data safe can only happen if we go after the root cause and understand our weaknesses and fix them. Otherwise, just like all companies, we will also get hacked. But this time, we'll get fined. I don't know if you have read DPDP Act, but I will tell you, I will show you the penalty table, and you will realize the seriousness of the issue. Okay. Oops. Now, who am I? I'm the founder of the group with 4+ decades of experience in the IT industry. Like Sir already said, I am a mechanical engineer and a postgraduate from IIM Bangalore. And I wrote this book, Cyber Vigilance, which is available on Amazon. Okay, so these are quickly our objectives today. DPDP Act is a game changer for the industry. Right? A lot of people cynically say, oh, it is nothing but a copy of GDPR. Maybe, maybe not, I don't care. The point is, it is a law in India, and if implemented well, will change how industries work today in terms of data safety of their customers. And it applies to almost everyone. This is a question which you will also find being discussed in your organization. Does it apply to us? Does it apply to us? Well, we will discuss that. But yes, 99.99% chances are it applies to your organization. Now, having said all that, there are incredible market opportunities, business opportunities this Act is going to present to a lot of different people. Okay. So we will see how this Act can do something for us. From that perspective, we will check. We will also examine what are the different roles each of us can consider going forward. And then finally, we can understand how we can add value to our organizations and most important, our careers. Okay? So we have this session, this talk in 2 sessions. The first session agenda, we'll start from the basic, then we'll touch quick understanding of DPDP Act, and we'll understand the dynamics of this DPDP Act, how it is going to affect our industry. Okay. So we'll start from the basic. Now you may have seen this, you have understood this, but I'd just like to repeat because this has a very strong bearing on the DPDP Act. What is data? On the screen you see 3 data. First is a number, second is a number from alphabets, third is only alphabets. So what it could be? Any guesses? Go ahead, you can speak. I mean, I like to have an interactive thing. If you can share, what do you think? The first one could be a telephone number, roll number, invoice number, right? The second one looks like maybe a product ID or a car registration number. Okay, it could be something else as well. We don't know. We are guessing, right? The third one sounds like somebody's name, a foreigner's name. Well, I know for a fact that this name is the name of the name of a store, of a business, is a person's name, and it is also the name of an animal preservatory in South Africa. So by looking at the word Kruger, can we definitively say what is this data? No. So then what is the catch? The catch is data with meaning. The meaning is what makes it information and relevant to us. Okay? So like I said, the first one could be phone number, roll number. Second one could be vehicle number, product ID, person or company name. Now these data points can mean something to us. Right? Now this is very important, because we will see as we go along, by itself data has no meaning. But the moment it has meaning, it has value, and therefore it comes under the act. Okay? Now we define something called personally identifiable information, which is basically any data about an individual who is identifiable by or in relationship to that data is called PII, personal identification or identifiable information. Okay? Why this definition is important? Because the entire DPDP Act is focused on PII and its protection. So if we go back to the previous slides, by itself that data has no meaning, but the moment there is a value attached and a meaning attached, it comes under the Act. Can you see the relevance of how data will be important in the DPDP Act? Now, these are some examples of different types of personally identifiable information. Direct identifiers like full name, a mobile number, email address, Aadhaar number, PAN, passport. Then indirect ones like date of birth, gender, residential address. Financial data of different types of bank data, your financial numbers. Sensitive data, medical records, they are considered very sensitive and therefore more private. And then your digital footprints, your browsing history, your IP addresses. So different examples of personally identifiable information, all of it is a part and protected under the DPDP Act. Now there are some relevant business uses of the DPDP Act. And this slide just tells us that businesses use our personally identifiable information for a variety of things that they do. It could be provision of services, personalizations. It could be used for targeted advertising and marketing. Okay, analytics, research, security and fraud prevention, regulatory compliances, and sharing this data with third-party brokering services for doing some other data processing. So these are valid today, accepted as legal and valid uses of business uses of PII. Okay, let's see another face of it. These are examples of misuse of PII. Okay, unauthorized profiling and surveillance. People try and track you without your permission to see what are your online movement. Then some kind of discriminatory target. This happens especially with women, that people try to target them for different reasons. Then selling your data to third party for monetary gains, manipulating content delivery to suit you and not suit you, actually ostensibly suit you, but actually suit the person who's selling the data. Then identity theft. Somebody will take your data and pretend to be you. Take loans against your Aadhaar card, your PAN card. You don't even know about it. Only when you get the statement you realize, oh my God, there is so much money due from me. It's not to do with you at all. Then phishing and social engineering, if they know something about you, they will do this. Like you may have heard of, you'll get a mail from somebody who's supposed to be your friend and say, hey Sudhir, I have a big problem. I'm stuck at this particular airport. Somebody has stolen my purse and I have no money. Can you please send some money, $100 to this person?
Way back in the 80s, when the Hotmail was introduced, my account was hacked like that.
Exactly. So I'm not saying this is an old thing, this is a very common thing. Okay? People have learned and now with
early morning conversation, people are calling me, clients are calling me. You are stuck in London, something's asking me. I said, I am here, Baba, don't do anything. You in fact discard my mail ID from your thing, it's being hacked.
absolutely. So here it goes. You have an example in the book.
I went to a cyber crime, that time there was no much of infrastructure. They denied taking my complaint also.
Correct.
And not the Hotmail people replied, nobody was there to answer me on a call center. So I had to discard that mail, and even today for your kind information, that mail ID is active.
Yeah, and probably being misused.
Yeah, it is active.
Yes.
Because credentials are placed.
Right. So there are many such misuses of PII, and therefore, even in absence of the DPDP Act, as individuals, we must do all that we can to protect our personally identified information. Right? And today, this is the biggest misuse of PII, artificial intelligence. There are hundreds of artificial intelligence engines all over the world, some very famous, some not so famous. All of them buy data in bulk from various agencies who make millions of dollars just selling your data. They don't do anything, they just sell your data. So that data can be used to train AI, starting from behavioral research, marketing, relationships, everything. Do you know, how many of you have Alexa at home? Oh, very good, very good. Do you know Alexa records everything that it hears? Whether you talk in Hindi, English, Punjabi, Marathi, Telugu, Tamil.
I was told even your mobile does it in the unused. Is it right? I have no idea.
Okay, a lot of people have claimed that, but unfortunately there is no validation of it.
Okay.
Right? And you can actually switch off the internet capability of your mobile. So then even if it records, it can't send it anywhere. So there is nothing. But Alexa records because the internet is active connection for Alexa all the time.
You are online.
You raised your hand, somebody? Yes?
So actually iPhone asks for it, specific permission it asks, saying that do you want me to listen to your conversation to improve the responses.
Yes.
It does record if you permit, yes.
For Siri, right?
Yes.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. Somewhere it is hidden under this asking of permission, right? Somewhere it is not hidden, they just steal it anyway. Like Alexa has been stealing. Okay. We were driving one day from some place and some kids in my car, they were talking about getting a dog. They were trying to convince their dad to get a dog for them. And then somebody picked up their phone and asked something and the mobile barked. So mobile responded in the bark of a dog to help people continue that conversation because it was interested in finding out what's going on. So we have a lot of that going on, okay? And AI is the culprit, yes. So basically, why PII needs to be kept safe? To prevent its misuse. Now, a lot of times I'm asked this question, oh, why has the government to do anything? The government has to do something because ordinary people, one, they don't know that their PII is being misused. And those, even if they do, a lot of them don't have the knowledge to prevent its misuse. Right? Some of us who are technical people may be able to, but the majority is non-technical and they may not be able to, like you can switch off Siri's request for recording, but if you know how to. If you don't, then it will continue recording. Right? So, idea behind the DPDP Act is to keep PII safe. So now we'll jump into understanding DPDP Act at a higher level. The idea is not to convert you into lawyers for DPDP Act, but just so that you understand its ambit. So now this originated, and you will be surprised, it originated thanks to Justice Puttaswamy's case in 2017. You can realize after how many years after independence, India woke up and said, you know, we should do something about it. Okay? But anyway, they did. So it was mandated that right to privacy is a fundamental right. Before that, nobody cared, right? Then there was, earlier than that, there was an attempt at creating Information Technology Act and IT Rules Act of 2011. And they had a general thing about sensitive data protection and things like that. Nobody cared much, to be honest. because there was no implementation arm. It was just more like, a guidance. You should keep data safe. You know how we Indians take guidance. We don't care about that. Then Justice D.N. Sri Krishna Committee was constituted in 2017 to study data protection frameworks across the world and suggest a suitable legislation, which they did in July of 2018. And then it took 5 years for the government of India to create the act called DPDP Act. Okay. And then it took another 1.5 years for the DPDP rules to be promulgated, because without the rules, the act has no meaning. Now there is an interesting part which we will see in a few minutes. Before we jump into the understanding, let's understand the major players in the DPDP Act. The most important person in the DPDP Act is data principal. Data principal is the individual whose information is being shared, is being collected, processed and stored. That is you and me, common person, right? This entire act is focused on the data principal and his rights, and we'll go around in that. Next is the data fiduciary. This is a person or entity who actually collects the data, processes it and stores it. It's called a data fiduciary. They have a fiduciary relationship with the data principal. A relationship of trust. Then a data processor. A data processor is seen as a difference from data fiduciary, because sometimes data fiduciaries don't process data themselves. So that is why the Act has created data processor as a separate entity, saying that we will hold you responsible in a different way if you are only processing data but you have not collected. Then Data Protection Board, not constituted yet. This is supposed to be an apex body to administer the DPDP Act across India. And this is the final one, significant data fiduciary. Now this is a very interesting, please.
Can I ask questions?
Yeah, please. Previous slide.
In the previous slide.
This one?
Previous.
Previous, this one?
The next one. Where the definition, yeah. From a hospital perspective, who would be data principal, who would be data fiduciary, who would be data principal?
From a hospital perspective.
Yes.
The hospital is the data fiduciary.
Okay.
Because hospital is collecting and processing information.
Okay.
Data principal is the patient,
Okay.
right? And then apart from these two, there could be other data processors like the insurance company. Once you are sending the data for settlement by the insurance, they are data processor. They are not collected it, but they are processing it. So they are data processors, right? And then let's go to the next one, because you'll understand this immediately. Significant data fiduciaries are organizations which are very large, like Amazon, like Meta. These are organizations which are processing millions and millions of people's data. So the government of India felt that these have to be kept in a separate bucket, and controls of them for them have to be different, and they work accordingly, right? So as you can see written here, volume and sensitivity of personal data processed is an important factor here. Okay. What are the rights, risks to the rights of the data principal? Third one is possibly most important, the potential impact on the sovereignty and integrity of India. A lot of data of Indians is being stolen, I shouldn't say stolen, will be collected and processed. It is felt that it could impact the sovereignty of our country, because that data could be used by malicious people who are doing something different. Right? So it could affect, for example, it could affect electoral democracy, because if somebody, see these days what is happening on social media, people are very happy to post their political religious views, right? Now what happens because of that? An organization which is collecting data from such social media will be able to sell the processing of that information to interested parties. You want to make party X win? We will market your services for you, sir. We have 6,432,000 people who are believers in your party, or the other way around. So by marketing to such people, electoral democracy can be challenged. You see the link here? You see the link how religious fundamentalism or lack of it could be harmed here. So data could be misused at a social level also. So these are with significant data fiduciaries who are processing billions of data. If your client who may be like say 100 crore, 1000 crore company, has even 10,000 customers, they cannot influence the electoral democracy of our country. But Facebook can, WhatsApp can. They are processing billions of records every day. So significant data fiduciaries have a separate chapter, a separate part of the law dedicated to them. We will come to that in a moment. What does this app apply to? Now this is again something, in the best of my knowledge, the government of India has decided that it will apply only to digital data. Only to digital data. Now, what does that mean? So sometime what is happening, just now you have decided to open a bank account with Bank X, and they have sent a runner to your house with forms. You fill up the forms, sign the form, attach your Aadhaar card, PAN card, whatever card, staple it, thank you. That data in that runner's hand is not protected by DPDP Act. So if he gives it a copy to somebody else, you can't do anything. It's not protected. The protection starts only when data is converted into digital form. Digital form could mean that document is scanned, digital form, or that document is used and the data is entered into a system in a digital way. Then it is protected. Why this discrepancy was done, I don't know, but your Aadhaar card, PAN card or anything else in paper form is not protected. What does that tell you as individuals? Don't keep anything in paper form. If you do, don't give it to anyone, because it is not protected. The Act also applies only to the processing of digital personal data within the boundary of India. Okay, there are special parts of the law which talk about processing outside, but we will come to that in a moment and we will see what goes on. Act does not apply to personal data processed by an individual for personal or domestic purpose. Like somebody gives you a resume, sir, please help me get a job. He has given you his personal data on a digital form, a resume. Does DPDP Act apply on you? No. It's a personal use, right? But if he had given it to a HR agency for getting a job, it applies. Because that is not personal anymore, it's organizational. And if any personal data is made public by the data principal himself, somebody puts a big billboard saying, hey, I am so and so, this is my email, this is my phone number. That data is not protected by DPDP Act because it's public data now. And then if the data is under the obligation of any sort of a law, then it is not covered by DPDP because then the law takes precedence. Okay, the usage by law takes precedence. Now we'll go jump into the DPDP Act. Again, please stop me like some active people have. If you don't understand, I'll be happy to go over it. But remember, we are not interested in becoming lawyers, we are just interested in understanding the overview of the DPDP Act. The DPDP Act is composed of 44 sections which are divided in 9 chapters and a schedule of penalties. Okay? This Act describes the roles and responsibility of different principles that we read, different players that we saw earlier. In a nutshell, and we'll go in detail, so don't think I'm just going to summarize here. You can see the bottommost, the protection of rights of data principle is the foundation of the DPDP Act. Please remember this, this guides every action of the DPDP Act. Are the rights of the data principle being protected or not? And this is done by something called a notice, something done by a consent, which is triggered by a data fiduciary. And on the side you can see in blue some conditions about that. Okay? Don't worry too much. If you are interested, as you get trained into this, you will learn more about it. The idea is to give you an overview why this act and how this act has been created and why it is such an effective act. We first see the rights of data principle. Who are the data principals and what is the basic premise? That the data principal own their personal identifiable information. Now this is very important. The fundamental right, saying your data privacy is a fundamental right, by implying that you own your data, gives you rights which translate from your right to protect your personal data. And everyone who uses our private data, personal data, has to understand this is your data and they can't do anything that they want with it. Now there are a couple of rights which are important. The right to access information about personal data. Now you are using, let's say, Flipkart, or you are using any online e-commerce platform, and over a period of time you are entering data, you are changing address. Okay, today you deliver to my son's home, or today you deliver to so and so, and you are sometime ordering X item, sometime Y item. Variety of different things you are doing. But personal data, your buying behavior, the credit cards that you have put in there, old credit card expired, you put in new one, you put in your debit card, whatever. Lot of your PII is with that platform. DPDP Act says you have a right to find out what is that information they have. Because only when you find out what is that information they have, other rights of your data principal as a data principal can be exercised by you. We'll see what is there. An example is, I will give you that same example. E-commerce site has a right to obtain a summary of her personal data that is being processed by the site. Okay? Right to correction and erasure of personal data. Till now, no act in India at least allowed you to correct or erase your personal data. But then you can't correct or erase your personal data if you don't know what it is. That is why the previous thing which we just now saw, right to access information about personal data, is important, because once you know what is being kept about you, you can ask for correction and erasure. Right? You don't want it to be kept anymore. You can request erasure, and the person who has stored it, collected it, has to erase it. It's a legal mandate. Okay. A very common example is a job applicant applies to a company for a job. He doesn't get it, but then he has a right to ask the company, please erase my information. Traditionally, what HR departments do, they keep these resumes whom they haven't selected for future references. They haven't selected you now, maybe 6 months later they will ask you again. It's a very common thing. But as per this particular act, the applicant has a right to say, sorry, delete my information, and they have to delete it. Right of grievance redressal. The data principal, the owner of the data, has a right to get her grievance about their data addressed quickly, and for this there's a setup being made that the data fiduciary or the consent manager has to address it. We will see again. See again a job applicant who has applied to an organization can get his grievance regarding data correction addressed through a mechanism that the data fiduciary, that means the company to whom he has applied, has to give him a mechanism by which they can get their data fixed or erased. Okay? Or any other grievance. Okay? This is more from financial point of view, but a right to nominate. Any data principal has the right to nominate. This happens in financial industry, banks have nomination right. But that was for financial things. This is for data. So you can nominate somebody and say, because of whatever reasons, my nominee can take decisions on my behalf.
Sir, as reflecting institute data regarding membership and everything, quite frequent call from let us banking person that for CA this is the offer. From medical health company, some from car company, vehicle company, some. So who is the institute is principal in this? Our data is not protected like this.
Currently it is not protected.
From institute,
A friend of mine opened a company.
Institute has not protected members' data.
Yes, yes. See, you have to understand this. This is not how Indian companies have worked till to date, but they will have to change now. Till May of 2026-27 is when implementation should be in full force. So this is the time when all organizations, schools, colleges, institutes, everyone has to start complying. There's a process by which they have to comply, and they have to show that they have complied. It is auditable process. So you are completely right, sir.
So what about in income tax also, we need to mention email, we need to put Aadhaar number, how these data is protected by department, income tax department.
Right. So currently, it is all almighty's power, but they will also have to comply. There is no exemption. The only people who are exempt is there's a court case going on, and the law has asked for your data, and they have the first right, not you. But income tax, whatever, ED, PD, whatever they have, as a matter of just taking your data, keeping it, they cannot do it anymore. you have to show that you are a part of a legal investigation, in which case that is exempt. Legal exempt investigation is exempt.
So we are applicable to government also, like site GST and all these things, because right now anyone is applying for the GST or MSME, they start getting calls from banks, people.
Yes. My colleague got some calls from 40 banks to open his account because they registered an LLP, and 40 different banks on one day within few hours called. That phone was ringing continuously. He was saying, what is happening? So MCA,
protected.
no protection. In fact, I am very certain it should be protected. He has right to protection. But it's not. See, these things have to change. Why do you think DPDP Act is such an important act?
And even GST data also,
GST, that's what he was saying, GST data. Just now he said.
that whether that person has filed on time, not on time. Yes, it may be good for other person to know the identity of that person.
Absolutely,
Again,
absolutely. They can call you and say, sir, your GST data, you have been issued a warrant, please deposit 5 lakh rupees in my account. You will deposit 5 lakh, digital arrest, you have heard of all these stories.
Yeah.
Yes, you have a right to get your data protected, not your companies, not companies' data. So if you are talking about companies' data, it is not protected here under DPDP. Only individual data. So if you have a director's phone number, director's email, that is protected. Not the actual you filed for 6 crore 52 lakhs GST, nobody cares. But your personal contactable, personal identifiable information is protected. Does that help you understand? Right?
But even once the data is put on portal, that turnover is and this, again, we can find it out with the director. Again, phone number can be find it out of that director.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying the government has decided that we cannot do everything in one go.
Right.
So they are starting with personal identifiable information. Slowly corporate information will come in. See, you cannot have one big blast and everything. So I think it's a good start that when personal identifiable information start getting protected, then the next step corporates will start saying, why should you leave our information out? That will also get protected. So it is a gradual shift. It will happen, but not immediately. Sorry, you will ask me.
Has it come into effect, sir? The DPDP Act, or is it still?
Yeah, DPDP Act is in effect.
Is it in effect from when, sir?
November 14th or something.
So anything prior to that, so the information which was there with fiduciaries, with the grievance in place and all that, I can reach out to them for correction or erasing that information as of today.
Yes. Except, since there is no governing body to catch the fiduciary,
Right.
if the fiduciary doesn't do anything about it, you can't do anything.
Got it.
So there is no mechanism to keep them under control. That is very important.
And who is regulating this act, sir?
Right now nobody, but there will be something called a data protection board,
Okay.
which the government will institute, and that board will be actually regulating and doing a lot of things.
Sir, in GST also, GST number is published on the invoice. It contains a PAN number. We put the PAN number on the website. It reflects the name of the person, the legal entity name, and the name of the business also. So, sir, how will this be avoided? I mean,
No. See, again, that's what I was answering. Your company's data, nobody cares.
no, sir, in this case, an individual is running a proprietorship firm,
Right.
and the person name is reflected on the website.
So the person's name will be protected, but the company's GST number, nobody cares. See, they are very clear. It should be personally identifiable, not company identifiable. You may be running a proprietorship company, but your company data is not covered under by DPDP. Now, this is the obligation of data fiduciaries, the people who are collecting, processing and storing your data. This is the most important part of data fiduciaries. I remember some 7-8 years ago, I got a mail from one of the online share trading platform that I was a member of, saying you need to complete this form. So in that form, they had asked for general stuff, and then they had said, my sources of income, what is the last income tax paid, and variety of such things. So I called them back and said, why are you asking this? Sir, SEBI has mandated it. I said, why has SEBI mandated it? Why should I tell you what is my income and what is my... No, sir, SEBI has said that. So I said, be sure. Send me this email back saying SEBI has mandated it, because I will check with SEBI. They disappeared. Because it was not mandated by SEBI, they just wanted it for marketing. if you are a high net worth individual, they will send a lot of schemes to you. You understand? So they were using it for marketing. Now, they were a data fiduciary, so in today's case, they'll have to show valid grounds to say why I am asking for your earnings information.
Sir, even schools are also asking incomes of parents.
Sorry, who's asking?
Schools, universities.
Yeah, so they will have to stop. They'll have to show why they are asking. See, they cannot just ask because they will say, okay, I am asking so that if you are rich, we'll ask for double the amount of donation that we are asking. You know, this is marketing, pure marketing. Right? But in future they can't do it because somebody will take them to court. Right? So, valid grounds for processing digital personal data. Restaurants, they'll collect your mobile number. They'll say, oh, we'll call you when your seat is available. So far so good, but if they don't remove it, then you can take them to court. Okay? They will sometimes just capture it so that they can send you offers. Sir, come this time, 10% off in your bill. Marketing. But if they don't tell you that, they are in trouble. Data fiduciary has to send a notice, electronic notice to the data principal saying, we are going to collect this information. And they have to state the purpose, why we are collecting that information. Right? This is required so that you can make a decision whether you want to give that information or don't want to give that information. Right? So when the university or somebody asks like that, they have to tell you, we are asking you so that we collect more donation from you. You can decide whether you want to join or not. Once you get the notice, the data principal has to provide explicit consent. I agree to share my information. Without it, the data fiduciary cannot collect your information. This is as per the law. Has it happened? Of course not. But it is expected to happen before May of 2027. At least that is what the government mandates. Now, importance of consent. It should be free, specific, that is to the point. Well informed, the data principal should be well informed why they are giving this consent. It should be unconditional. See, a lot of people will say, if you don't do this, we will cancel your account or we will get less percentage profit or something they'll say. So it cannot be conditional. Consent has to be unconditional and unambiguous. So you cannot frame it in a very ambiguous, legal sounding, if therefore thus but kind of language. If the client doesn't understand, it is ambiguous. If you do that, then you are at fault, not data principal. And it should have a clear affirmative action which should say, we require this because this is, please give your consent in this way. So that affirmative action should be clearly stated. Click this here, write this here, put your password here to indicate your consent. So this will signify an agreement for the data principal to say, okay, I am permitting you to take my data. Next point is very, very, very important, which never happens in India. It should be in clear language, giving them an option to access such requests primarily in English because English is very common, but also in one of the 26 odd scheduled languages. So the website should be prepared to ask for the consent in the language that their customer is comfortable with. So they cannot say, no, we don't speak Assamese. Sorry, you can't take their consent. Not acceptable. The government will not allow you. So this will change and make things more uniform for customers all over the country. Because that consent will reach to so many people who will understand why they are being asked. And then they can give their consent in some form. Third part is for the data grievance and redressal that we discussed earlier. The consent declaration must contain the contact address of a data protection officer connected to the fiduciary, whom the data principal can contact and say, please erase my data, please modify my data, or whatever they want to do with that data, they can talk. So they cannot say, please go to our website and contact our data protection officer. No, it has to say, data protection officer, Mr. So-and-so, phone number, email, whatever. It has to be specific. This also is a part of that process. Please.
This digital signature is also PII, right?
DHT signature is not PII.
Yeah, but it contains PII, phone number or something like that.
How? Because it's a signature in an encrypted form.
Yeah.
So how will you break that encryption?
I was just asking whether it is PIL.
See, theoretically, you are signing with willful consent. You are signing a document willfully. So when you are signing a document, it is considered you have agreed to sign it.
Yeah, but in CA firms, normally the client keeps the DSC with the CA.
That is the relationship between you and the CFO. No. See, DPDP, you cannot. I may give all my personal identifying information to my CFO. Why they are filing my income tax, they are filing a property tax. But that's relationship between me and my nominee, my agency. So DPDP Act cannot come between us. I cannot tomorrow suddenly say, no, why they do it? No, but you gave it, why? So you empowered them to do it. So you cannot complain. So signature, unfortunately, is encrypted, or fortunately it's encrypted, so you can't do much about it. It shows your name. That, okay, this is being signed by Mr. So-and-so. Somebody raised their hand here. Yeah, please.
So now in case where I am a professional taking a data from the client to incorporate the private company, we take the data of directors, we take all the personal information. Am I covered under this act to take a consent whether I be using this data for so and so purpose?
Yes, you are covered.
So from now onwards we will have to take a consent from all the directors.
You have to take it, you have to be in place before May 26, 27. Your process should be implementable and should be working definitely then. Otherwise you are liable to be fined.
So in case data was given in a physical form, like you told Aadhaar card, then we have converted in our office or further as a digital form. Then what?
The moment you convert to digital form, it is covered by DPDP. If it remains in paper, nobody cares.
Sir, even phone number is also digital data, just phone number.
Yeah, if there is no name attached to the phone number, then it is not data at all.
Because wherever, suppose any purchase is there, Flipkart, Amazon, cash on delivery, jewelry shop, if government or income tax asks for whatever is the expenses with this phone number all over India, can they, because it is again personal data,
It is, yes, it is covered by
all
DPDP.
over India, how much is purchased with this phone number?
See, the moment it comes under legal investigation, it is exempt. So if the income tax is investigating you, it's a part of legal investigation. It is exempt. And you will have to answer it. You cannot hide under DPDP Act and say it's a personal data, so you cannot. Somebody raised, please.
So continuing this question, if we are taking the the client data for the purpose of incorporation, are we not still covered to the CA and the client relationship? Why would we get covered under the?
Okay, let's look at it this way. You go to a doctor, that relationship is considered the most trust-related relationship, right? And what they examined you, what they told you, what your medical condition is confidential information. Doctor cannot share it with anyone. Whether DPDP or not DPDP, it is still covered under other acts. But your contact information, your name, telephone, address, email, if they share, they are under serious problem. Same thing here. You have collected everything, that is a trustable bond between the CA and the company. No problem. The moment you start sharing it, you have a problem. And now, with the advent of DPDP, you need to take a consent. When you are filling up, you send a document along with this, Mr. Sudhir, this is the following documents are required by us for processing your new company formation. You have to give the purpose. And then you have to give, according to the law, if you have any reason to change this information, contact our data protection officer. So all that has to be adhered to. There are formats which you have to adhere to. And you have to keep them safe. Because if you are investigated, you should say, yeah, this was signed by approved by my client.
So KYC already collected, say if somebody has 1,000 clients, in each of those packs, if you have stored in digital form, you need to take it, is it?
See, okay, so now this is very interesting. I will tell you some very interesting things. The law has been enacted, but it is in force. So anyone who thinking it's not in force, wrong. It is in force. But there is no data protection board. There is no bench of legal thinking on this act yet. What will happen in subsequent years is, as time matures, more and more people will come with their specific questions, application of law in specific cases. So this law will mature. If you have read commentaries on different laws, legal people, there are books which are fatter than the act. Act will be 40 pages, the commentaries will be 400 pages. What are those commentaries? Those are opinions by relevant and very experienced lawyers talking about specific aspects of law. Here, today we have nothing. We are a new law, brand new law, new baby. As we go along, this will emerge. All these fine decisions will come. When it is finally applicable, there will be opinions not only given by experts, but the courts will also step in and say, we rule like this. Because nobody wants that DPDP should create a problem for everyone. But that beats the purpose of this law. Right? But right now it is, you take an educated guess, and keeping the rights of data principle in your mind, you take the step. As long as your step is taken in good faith, I think you are protected. So data fiduciaries may sometimes engage a data processor, so that is permitted under law. Processing of children's data or processing of data of people with disabilities now mandate permission from the parent or guardian. Verifiable mandate. Okay, so it should not be just a click here, done. No, there has to be a process they have to set up to say the parent or the guardian has given consent for the child or for the person with disability. Okay. And so this is a new addition which has never been there in any law for the first time. Now this is a very critical part where we feel maybe the major issues. The DPDP Act expects that the data fiduciaries, people who are collecting, processing and storing information, will keep the data safe. Right? Now like all laws, they have said, if you read the second line, reasonable security safeguards. Right? Now from a legal point of view, it sounds very nice. But what does it mean actually? We don't know. So the rule 6 says you should use things like encryption, masking, obfuscation, access control protocol, data backups, continuous monitoring. These are very general things. And cybersecurity industry already does it. But are they safe from being hacked? So important lesson here is the intent of the law is very good. Keep data safe, yes. But what they have recommended, because they don't know better, is something which is being used by everyone in the industry who are royally getting hacked every now and then. Except in the case of DPDP Act, if you get hacked, the penalties are very severe. Under IT Act and the other Act, penalties are not there. This is the first act which has teeth, which can really put you in trouble. We'll discuss that going forward. And so this is the same thing about the reasonable protection. So they are expected to protect the data under their control. Now significant fiduciaries are another animal. They are large organization. So here, right from day one, they are supposed to appoint a DPO, a data protection officer, who is empowered to talk on their behalf to all data principals whose data is being collected. So he or she may be not one, but a whole department headed by a DPO. Okay? And they also need to get audited, just like financial audit happens periodically. Significant fiduciaries have to get audited every year, every periodic year, and they have to go through something called a data protection impact assessment. Now what is this? See, government realizes, and see, this is what I'm saying, this is a very elevated act. Digital organizations go through a change very often. Either the websites will change, or the product offering will change, or information will change. So there is a lot of change which is happening in these electronic mediums. This act says if you are a significant fiduciary, you have to conduct a data protection impact assessment of that action that you just done. You have changed your website? Yeah, change it. File a data protection impact assessment. What impact will it have on your data protection activities? Because they want you to take that action after understanding the impact. You cannot later say, sorry, we didn't know that this could happen and this happened. No. Do it first, then only you make the change. Okay? Significant data fiduciaries also require periodic audits. And then there are small other measures which SDFs are required to take up. Now this is very interesting, please have a look. The penalty structure, the first act with serious teeth You can look at the first one, breach in observing obligations of data fiduciaries to take reasonable security safeguards up to 250 crore rupees. In a country where the average profit of a company is about 5% of the gross, 250 crores will wipe out profits of very large companies, like that, right? And see, this is the catch. They have said you should be reasonably safe. How? That the act is silent, and this is where people like you will come in. People like you, through proper training, will be able to point to them that these are the steps you need to take so that you have a chance of keeping your data safe. And of course, the table goes down. It is number 5. This is to do with data principle. If the data principle, the person who is giving his data is not fulfilling his or her obligation, they can also be fined. This is the first time such a thing has happened, but it's good. See, it is on both sides. Somebody is processing a data will get fined, and it's up to 150 crore, 150 crore, 100 crore, 50 crores. But even the data principal will be fined if they are not doing their work. Very important. Now, all this has created a whole new industry dynamics. This diagram, please don't get wonder about it. What I have tried to do is define 3 different segments of an industry and say how each, the external front end is affected by DPDP, the internal processes are affected by DPDP, and the external back end when you are sending data out to somebody else. So if you look at all of them, a significant portion of the data a company processes is affected by DPDP. The idea of this diagram is only to tell you, it is not like, okay, we'll naam ke vaste do something and we will be okay. This is a serious act. And as the DPP board is formed, as the data protection inspectors are created, government inspectors, this will get more serious. Every covered organization, and we'll talk about in a minute in covered organization, has to commission a DPDP applicability and gap assessment. The moment they say, are we covered and what is the gap, where are we today and how much gap is there between achieving the implementability or the achieving the implementation compliance with DPDP Act, they have to find out. What data they hold, why it is held, and where are the risks, they should check that out. They have to assign ownership and accountability related to the data they have collected, processed and stored. They have to ensure controls for data protection, incident response, and regularity reporting happen all the time. Now these are new roles, this was not happening earlier, nobody was doing this. But going forward, all organizations will be required to do it. And then of course, all data fiduciaries should undertake periodic DP compliance assessments. Are they compliant, not compliant, what's going on? First line I'll quickly talk, every covered organization, very simple rule. Are you, if you're an organization, are you processing digital PII? If the answer is yes, you are covered. Very simple. One question, look at your organization and say, are they doing any PII processing? Whether you are setting up a new company, look at that part of data which is PII. If you are a recruitment company, you are getting resumes, so look at that part of the resume which is PII and you will know you are covered or not. Very simple. Now, who can fill these roles that the DPDP Act is creating? People who understand the audit process, who understand what is compliance verification, who can do assessment of internal controls, who can review contracts and agreements, who can review records, and who are comfortable with reporting and communications. These are functional requirements of the new roles that are being created by the DPDP Act going forward. So this is end of session 1. I think I have 10 minutes more before 6:30. So please, I'll answer questions.
So in slide 37, there was a requirement of data masking. So you cannot go there, that's okay. Data masking. So data masking applies to both data at rest and data in transit.
Yeah, so the thing is, look at it not from data in transit or data in rest. Look at it from point of view of data that can be hacked. So if it can be hacked during transit, you have to mask it. If it can be hacked when it is read, you have to mask it. So good idea is to mask it.
Sir, are there any best practices for masking this?
Oh yeah, there are many. See, none of this is rocket science. But you see, you have to understand, and you are all financial people, you understand, companies won't spend money unless there is a profit. So the government is saying, in DPDP Act there is no profit, but there is a serious fine if you don't come back. So it is a negative way of encouraging companies to follow. What this will do in a very different way is make sure our companies, our businesses become data secure. We will get hacked less. Not because of IT Act, because of DPDP Act. Because people will try to keep their data safe, otherwise 250 crores is not a funny number. I mean, I don't know how many organizations will be able to take that level of fines, right? So sir, it's always a good idea. Now that DPDP Act with compliance is starting to keep your data safe. That is what I would recommend. Any other questions?
Definition of significant data fiduciary.
Say that again.
Definition of significant data fiduciary.
Significant data fiduciary are basically people who have very large volumes of personal data processed.
No, but somewhere it should be defined.
It is defined in the Act. Right. I did not copy, cut and paste because that would have meaningless. The idea was to tell you that any organization with processing hundreds of millions of records are significant data fiduciary. We estimate that in India there will be hardly about 500 such organizations, which the DPP will notify. So everyone not notified is still only a data fiduciary. Out of all the companies in India, the Data Protection Board will notify that the following are significant data fiduciaries, and then they will have to take data. Please.
So you said data principle has a penalty provision. A data principle is basically
You may.
If there's a data breach or some irregularity, I would put a case on data fiduciary. Then where am I fitting into this penalty concept?
See, we expect that the data principle will always do the right thing, will follow the right instructions. What if they don't? How can data fiduciary be held responsible for the incorrect behavior of data principle? So that is why it is put there. Yes, will it happen very often? No. But to even the field, to encourage them, why you please take action on your part, it's put there.
So as a CA firm, we handle large amount of client data in Excel and basically in plain text. It's not always feasible to encrypt the data because if we encrypt and we have to use that data, the work will get delayed all the times.
Talk to me after the class. There are automatic encryption, decryption systems available. So when you see data, it will be unencrypted form, but it is stored in transit, in rest, everywhere in encrypted form.
Employees, there are chances that employees might misuse when it is visible on the screen or they have access.
They take a picture. Yes, and that is why session 2 we will talk about cyber breaches audit, which is a complete examination of all possible leak points and closing them. Right? Which is why this rule 8, which says reasonable data security, it has no meaning. It is very wishy-washy. Right? If your company is seriously interested, they have to take concrete steps which will keep their data secure. Plus, not only their data secure, the CBRA will keep the entire company secure. Okay? Yes, we can do that, and that is why I think.
Sometimes bankers will be directly calling to chartered accountant. Client will be giving phone number to banker. You kindly get the balance sheet. We will not be having any written data from client or authority that you kindly share with the banker directly. That if we send directly other than client, does it breach of this one?
Yes, it is. So you need to get consent. Say you can send them an email. Please approve this on email, and they will send an approval to you. Yes, please share this with my banker name so and so, then and so. That is consent. Because otherwise you can be held liable. You can say, I never said it, why did you share it? Although that data, your balance sheet, is not covered under DPDP. So, but your personal name and other things are. Yes, please.
To understand clearly the applicability of DPDP, you said only if it is digital form. So in current context, many times the information collected through visiting cards, it's a paper. One is we collect. At that point of time, we may not be responsible still because it is paper, or sometimes they give it on their own voluntarily. That time also not. But let's say if I convert that information into digital information and store it, then are you saying the DPDP Act should apply?
Yes. See, the thing is, for normally self-shared information, consent and other things will not apply. Correct? And you can show that this was from the card given by the customer. Fair. And you have stored it. But you have stored it, you have to keep it safe. You cannot let it be leaked. So that part will apply.
Once I share it, then everything will become a...
Even if you don't share it, you just store it. You have to keep it safe. Yes, please.
Sir, is it always consent that we are supposed to take it, or is there any implied way?
There is no implied consent in DPDP. There is no implied consent.
So is it fine when we take a single consent while onboarding, terming all these conditions straight away and...
See, you cannot use statement like, I, Sudhir Goel, gives consents for everything that my bank will do in future, today, tomorrow. You can't do that. You have to say these are the 5 steps, 6 steps. You can put 100 steps as long as you put all of them. And the client has the ability to read and say yes. In the language they understand. Then yes. But you can't say etc. and covered. You can't use that.
So it's like one line, if the client has confirmed in the call, still that will be taken as a consent.
See, I don't think it's covered, but you see, like some gentleman was saying, as the law matures, the industry may say, you keep a recording of that approval, right? But then that is another system. It's simpler probably to send an email saying, here is a consent form, please digitally sign it and send it back to me. Much cheaper, simpler, right?
Sometimes not all clients are okay with sending emails or...
They will have to be. If you want to work for them, they want to work for you, and you don't want to get a fine, they will have to be. You have to educate them. There are many sides to this. Yes, please.
So any data leakage or whatever means penalty on the phone. So anything is for the principal part, anyway, loss is to the principal.
Yeah, there is. No, that is a penalty for principal, 10,000 rupees.
No. My thing is, as in the principal, suppose I lost my data and financial loss happened to me. So any...
DPDP Act doesn't cover that. You can sue the fiduciary. That's a separate issue. Act allows you, it is outside the Act. Penalty is the Data Protection Board will penalize that fellow if they have breached the data safety. Right? If you have lost their data as a part of that, you can file a civil suit against them. It's a separate issue.
Is there?
So is there a way to link, the engagement letter with this? The engagement letter with the clients that we signed it out. Is there a way that we can link it to the DPDP Act as well?
You have to redo it. You have to redo it, including all the consents that you need.
So any significant impact when you compare it with GDPR? Anything in the DPDP has?
See, a lot of people say DPDP is a copy of GDPR. No, it is not. GDPR is more, let's say it's less draconian than DPDP. DPDP is quite draconian and DPDP is quite clear. So there are, otherwise, I don't like reading laws and acts. They are very legalese language and it confuses if, therefore, thus, bust, and you get confused here, what is this happening? This is crystal clear. Everywhere they have given illustrations, examples to tell you what is going on. So they have taken some effort, because why? They are talking to the data principal, who's a common man, who's not a lawyer, right? So effort has gone in, and send me some parallels. Data fiduciary is a concept from GDPR, but how they have applied it, I like it here.
You mentioned that it has to be consent has taken the language understandable to the data principles. We come across, especially banks and all come across clients who are literate or from management language and all. So how does the organization go about it?
See, that's what I'm saying. There are rules for that. The rules are, today forget DPDP for a moment, in all such cases, there is a provision in law which says the person who is illiterate, somebody who is knowledgeable has explained to him and then that fellow has indicated by his thumbprint that I have understood what was explained to me. So consent will have to, those kind of things will be brought into the consent. See, law has to mature. This will also mature. Those methods will also come in. See, even if it is not written in DPDP, if your organization is bringing that in, the DP Protection Board will appreciate it because you are doing it in the right spirit. Right? As long as you are saying, I am getting consent after the client has understood what I want. That is the main thing.
What is the applicability of the not-for-profit organization which are collecting information?
Everyone is covered.
There also.
Only people not covered in the courts of India. Because that's a legal process. They can't hide your data all the time. And they can't fight another case to say we'll keep your name hidden, except in cases of special, like children, they cannot divulge. But all other things, Act does not apply. It's very clear, there's an exemption in the Act that if there's a legal, ongoing legal process, they are not covered by these ones.
Unique data, institute is not an enforcement agency, right? Like income tax and all, ED. So even unique data, we share with the institute, right? And in institute in turn, everyone can see, because that can also be covered.
It is covered. All the part of that data which is personally identifiable is covered by DPDP. But like for example, some part of that data which is not individually identifiable will not be covered. Like indirect data about your examination results is indirect data. It is covered. So while it may be visible on your portal, they have to make sure it is protected and that data cannot leak.
So, sir, as a CA firm, we use a lot of other softwares also. What if the third-party software vendor leaks the customer data?
I'm telling you, talk to me after this. These are the leak points which Act does not talk about. Right? Trust me, there are 5 areas in an organization where data leakage happens very regularly. Okay? And organizations, because they are penny wise pound foolish, don't fix that. And that is why you name an organization, they have been hacked. Now tell me something, people say, I met some CISO there, we don't have the budget. I ask them, Microsoft, you know how big it is? Yes. They have budgets? Yes. They have probably doctorate candidates working for them as cybersecurity professionals? Yes. They are hacked regularly. So what is the funda? Why it's happening? UK last year, the judge gave punishment to 3 boys. When I say boys, he said by law I am not allowed to take your name in the court because you are minors. What was he punishing them for? They hacked into Uber, they hacked into Nvidia, and these are kids, school-going kids. What is happening? They have multi-million-dollar cybersecurity products installed. Kids, school-going kids have taken that for a ride. Can you imagine? This is fact. I'm not making it up. I can send you links to these judgments. So, traditional model of cybersecurity will not help. DPDP saying reasonable security will definitely not help. So you are the people who can influence a client to say, take better measures.
So with the board missing, since there's no board, and I know we'll cover the industry impact in the next session, in the food chain, which is the top where this has to take, they have to start working today on DPDP. Like
Ministry of Information Technology.
No, those are the people who will enact it and all that. But from an industry perspective,
yeah, the CEO has to say, okay, we'll start.
Which industry?
Every industry. Every company has to say, we start. See, it may seem between now and May 2027 may seem like, oh my God, we have so much time, 14-15 months. You will know in terms of how slow things move in a company, 14-15 months is nothing. They'll barely be able to implement it in 14-15 months. Because every aspect of the company will be hit.
I get it, sir, but out of top 10 industries, which are the top 3 or 4, which are on a boiling pot where the penalties can come on
banks, hospitals,
okay,
like the gentleman saw in educational institutions. Education institutions are the least protected. Hospitals are even worse than educational institutions. They are not protected, most of them. Banks are a little bit protected, but not very well. Indian banks, allegedly, I don't know, people have claimed, is the least protected financial services organization in the world for some reason.
Insurance companies.
There you go, insurance companies. So, data protection in India is not a very understood industry. People don't spend much time on it.
So what's happening on the insurance industry to offer the products to safeguard security?
There's nothing happening. See, that's why DPDP Act is supposed to wake them up and say, Bhaiya, do something. You're going to get into serious trouble if you don't. See, all that will happen if people don't do it. The government inspectors will make a lot of money. They'll come and raid you and then you know what happens.
And talking about protection offering some policies for
No matter what,
so long.
all that process will have to be modified to make sure that the personal identifiable information is kept secure. That is non-negotiable as far as DPDP Act is concerned.
So here the expectation is that you are taking reasonable care. Despite taking reasonable care, some hacking happens like what you were talking about Microsoft or with your corporation. Still at least you can prove that I have taken reasonable steps, somebody has been sponsored.
Right, but see that how much trouble it puts you in. What you think is reasonable and what the inspector thinks is not reasonable are two different things. Since there is no clear guideline of what is reasonable,
Has it been defined in the Act? What is reasonable?
no, there is no data protection board yet. Who will define it?
The Act or rules?
No, we have defined it because we know what to do. Okay, we know how to protect because we go after root cause. We don't go about the way cyber security does. But there is, from the government point of view, no job, nothing.
They have not defined what is the reasonable care.
They have said you should encrypt your data, you should do this, you should do that. Great. But that has never traditionally saved anyone.
Because since you have a law, you have a reality that the remove happen. So maybe the law will go for this.
You can light a agarbatti in front of God and say maybe they will listen to you. I don't know. See, government's thinking and the inspector who are raiding you thinking is two different things. My thinking is better to be safe than sorry. Very simple. You may like to spend a small amount of money on safety rather than bribe the inspector with several huge amounts.
Why so much of penalty, sir?
Sorry?
Why so much of penalty?
Otherwise people will not take them seriously, no? Okay, I've been told that we have a break for 15 minutes. So it is 6:30 now. We meet back at 6:45. Is that okay? Great, thank you. Okay. So now session 2 is about how we can make the DPDP Act work for us. Okay. Session 1 was just to give you an overview of DPDP and considering the enormous interaction by everyone, which was very delightful. I think all of you are of a common mindset that it is going to be something which is going to change the industry in very significant ways. Right? So, how will it affect us? And why should we care unless it's going to be useful to us? So this second part is focused solely on that, how to make it work. So this is basically the agenda for our second session. First part will deal with this path through DPDP compliance, what is the overall understanding, how do we achieve the DPDP compliance. Then the second part is cyber breach risk audit. And finally, most important to all of you, the strategic role that chartered accountants can play in this journey. So let's move immediately to the okay. So now we'll spend a moment on this. We are somewhere in the middle, we are somewhere, in the middle where between phase 1 and phase 2, where the rules have been published but nothing much has happened. The data protection board has not been set up, though there was a news item some of you may have read maybe a week or two back that the government wants to shorten the timeline on the DPDP implementation. But after that, really nothing has happened. The government has not given us a new timeline. So as of today, the timeline is May 13th, 2027, when full substantive compliance is expected from organizations, covered organizations. Now you have to understand this is happening without any guidance given to the affected organizations. Okay? So do you see the challenge here? Do you see the grayness or the uncertainty that is coming with this desire to have companies comply? How do we comply? What are the challenges? What is the process? Nothing is known. But we are expected to be compliant by May 13th, 2027. So what do we do? Well, fortunately for us people in this room, all of us here are process intensive, process concurrent people. You know, we understand processes. And therefore, we also understand audits, the process of audit. So therefore, it is not as difficult a job for people like us to meet that expectation of May 13th. Let's understand this very clearly. A common man may be left wondering, yeah, what I have to do, what I don't have to do. But I don't think chartered accountants who breathe audits all the time, who are procedure system based, will have a problem once they put their heart and soul into it. So with that, I'll move on. This is just an overview. And I'm just repeating, Data Protection Board has not been set up till now. So, though notification has happened, Data Protection Act cannot be enforced without a Data Protection Board. If you have to complain to somebody, who do you complain to? If somebody has to enforce something, who will enforce it? We don't know. Okay? But the full compliance is required by May 30th. Okay? This goal may not be easily achievable because a lot of people don't understand the concept of DP audit process. Most important, the lack of trained DPDP auditors and lack of data safety auditors, which is to cover the safety part which I mentioned earlier. What this act has done, now this slide is extremely important and I'll spend a few minutes on this. In absence of clear guidelines for the government, if any system-oriented, audit-oriented person will look at the act and say, let me analyze the act for what kind of opportunities this is creating for individuals of professionals in India. The first thing that comes to mind is the requirement for internal DPDP auditors. Who are these people? These people will be required to do periodic internal assessment of DPDP readiness for their organizations. It is not going to be like once in a year accommodation, or we will do audit once in a year, like financial year closes on this date and therefore audit has to be done on that date. DPDP protection is 24/7. Businesses change all the time, their business goals change, their systems change, their procedures change, and so their DPDP readiness is something that will get affected all the time. So periodic reassessment, internal assessment, just so that the companies stay within the guidelines of DPDP Act is very much required. Do you need water? Can I? No? Okay. So this part, this role, I hope you understand. If there are questions, please, like last time, raise your hand. Let's talk about it. Now, yeah, please.
Is the term, who can do an audit? DPDP audit? Can chartered accountant do it?
I'll come to that. I'm driving to that. I'm just saying, DPDP Act has created these new opportunities in the market. And then we'll come to it, who are best placed in the market to take up these things, and then you can assess whether chartered accountants can do it or not. Okay? So just bear with me for a little while. The other thing that needs to happen concurrently is consent management auditors. Now, who are these people? These are people who will audit the consents that have been taken by you before collecting data from your data principles, right? You have collected it, it's in force, not force, has it? There are a lot of aspects of consent management, which apart from getting consent, it allows people to opine on their consent to say, I want this modified, I want this erased, and so on and so forth. Is that consent management system working as expected? So while it is a subset of internal DPDP auditors, it is a more specialized subset because it focuses only on consent. Why this is furthermore important is that Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has done something very important. They deputed RBI to help them along with creating an RFP for companies to create public infrastructure for consent management. So 5 companies already have been selected, and Tata TCS has recently thrown its hat and said we will also apply for it. They will get it because they are so big, right? And they will all create what is called a public consent management framework, which any organization can use. They can see any organization can have their own consent management, which is you have to create that whole infrastructure, or they can license from one of these 5-6 providers and use that. Okay. Are these consent management frameworks ready? No, but they will get ready shortly. The companies are building them. They have huge investments in building these portals, and sooner or later they will become active. And therefore, this job, from a customer's point of view, that means your organization's point of view, one of the roles people like you can take up is consent management auditing. For the different customers whose data is being collected, data principals whose data is being collected, let me check the audit. Is the audit supporting that consent collection? Okay. And if not, then you have to go back to the data principal and get fresh consent. Otherwise, you are going to be penalized. Now, then the next role is external DPDP auditors for annual assessment. This is typically mandatory for significant fiduciaries, which are roughly about 500 top organizations in India. But it's a good to have for other organizations, fiduciaries. Right? Why? Because if the fiduciary organizations who are not mandated to have annual external audit, if they are raided and something is found, then they are in trouble. So it is better to have an external agency not connected to them. See, internal DPDP auditors can be their employee, right? And so one can say they may not do an audit all that well, or they may miss something by mistake. An external auditor has no love for you. They will come as the external auditors, very much like a government raid, and will check your records to tell you if something is wrong. So you are forewarned and you are ready. So external DPDP auditors, though will do something similar to internal auditors, they will do it with a little more care because they have no connection with your organization and they will be able to do a more brutally honest job. Then data protection officers. Now again, this is a role which is mandatory for significant data fiduciaries, but a good to have for large organizations who are collecting information from their data principals. Why? This allows the organization to have a defined department or a team which is dedicated to the act of data protection going forward, rather than just have somebody or the other anybody will do this data protection. There is a significant name, a certain name which is assigned with the accountability and authority to process all the work that is related to data protection. Like cyber security has a CISO, data protection should have a DPO, even though it's not mandated, is a recommendation, and a lot of companies are already following it. Like I know certainly that some banks who have not been named as data fiduciaries, significant data fiduciaries, have already started with appointing data protection officers. Because it makes sense, there is a department whose sole purpose in life is to protect the data they have gathered and collected. Right? Now this one, second last, data protection impact assessors. What are these people? These people are in the grey area. They are the people who will interact with your business side and the data protection side both, because business changes to marketing processes, changes to data collection processes, changing to data processing, changes to way of data is processed, stored, or even contracted out to somebody else, need to be assessed. Every time that happens, the DPIA, data protection impact assessment, has to be made formally and filed. Again, not required, it's mandatory for SDFs, but a good to have for fiduciaries because it gives a trackable audit point. Anytime an external audit like a government raids you, you have your data in order that yes, this change we did and here is the impact assessment and this was the result, this is the steps we took. Okay. And then lastly, the actual audit. Audit coordinators, these are like the erstwhile software project managers who will take charge of auditing processes, especially internal. If not internal, external, then they will take on the role of coordinating with external auditors to make sure information that is needed by external auditors is made available to them. Right? So they are by themselves not data protection officers, they are more like a coordinating agency. They will make sure that the data audit process is adhered to strictly and results are processed. Any doubts so far, please?
So the item 3 you mentioned annual assessment of audit. Is there any stipulation that there should be an annual audit or
Only,
what is the trigger for that?
right, only for significant data fiduciaries there is a mandatory requirement. So that's why I have written there mandatory for SDS, good to have for other data fiduciaries. It is a good to have only considering that if you have an external person, external organization, eyeball your data preparedness, then there are less chances of error being caused because the penalty is so heavy. You know, giving a few lakhs to an external auditor is worth compared to getting fined for a few crores. Only from that perspective. It is not mandatory for data fiduciaries, but only for significant data fiduciaries. So it's the better to play safe than sorry. Any other questions? Can I go to the next one? Okay. So again, this is just a pictorial view of the roles I discussed. There are internal roles, there are external roles, and there's another role which I didn't mention, but it's a part of the external. Is somebody asked about third-party, compliance with DPDP. External auditors usually cover that for an organization. And if your organization is using a lot of third parties, like if you're a manufacturing organization, a lot of data information, the parts or supplies are coming from third parties who are signing up into you and connected to you, then third party cyber leaks are very common. And in fact, some of the significant ways data hacks happen because hackers enter through small companies and enter your bigger company. So third party DPDP compliance is a part of the external auditor's roles, and you can hire a company who will do auditing for your third parties to make sure they are compliant with the agreement you have placed with them. Now I have defined these in 3 different tiers, just you can see that. Tier 1 consists of significant data fiduciaries. It's an estimate about 500 very large companies in India. They will require a mandatory annual audit under Rule 13. They will require a DPO, they will require a DPIA review, internal DPDP compliance assessment, and external DP auditors. They will require all those. There are only 500, these are huge companies. Tier 2 is huge because they are very large in number. Tier 2 is estimated there will be more than 10,000 businesses, middle to large businesses, who will be data fiduciaries, and though may not mandated for annual audits, will require or should, it is recommended that they should undertake all the processes of internal assessment, external assessment, using a DPO, because it gives them clarity and due diligent records that will be helpful in case an investigation is conducted against them. And tier 3, mid-sized data fiduciaries, because small companies there are too many. There are approximately again 50,000 recorded entities in India. They will only need a DPDP compliance verification, assessment and verification, a smaller survey because the number of data collection and storage and processing points will be very small. These are typically companies with 50 to 100 employees and same number of workstations where they are processing and collecting information. So they will have a smaller footprint as far as audit is concerned. They will not need a DPO because small companies typically will not be able to afford that, but an assessment to make sure that they are covered by DPDP is something that they will need or should do. They can choose not to and then take the risk. There is nobody stopping them. Okay. Now, this is an estimation of table of new jobs that are typically going to get created by DPDP. So we can go line by line, or if you can see, significant data fiduciaries we estimate will require about 13,500 new jobs created. Large data fiduciaries, which are about 10,000 entities, will require anywhere around between 5 to 8 full-time employees, roughly about 66,000. We just took some average new jobs in these 10,000 organizations. And mid-tier will require again 67,500. Total market will require around 47 to 1,50,000 new jobs will get created. But these roles will have to be fulfilled whether we like it or not. On the left-hand side, you can see the different roles. You saw the internal TPIA. You did not see a security audit specialist. Typically, people don't think security audit is a part of DPDP audit. It's their big mistake, because Section 8 and Rule 6 are very clear about data safety. So you will require somebody who can do security audit, and third-party audit again from security perspective. Then a breach investigation, somebody who will be able to investigate breaches, to be able to assign a reason why the breach happened. See, everyone understands, and I'm sure even data processing board, protection board will also understand, that you can't protect against all sorts of breaches. There are some state actors which are government driven from different countries, whose hackers are so talented that they can hack almost every protected system. But if you are able to show that you have taken more than adequate protection, you have done root cause analysis, you have everything in place and still you are hacked, then that can be done only by these forensic examiners who will say this breach happened because of this reason. This is the only way a covered entity can escape punishment, if they can show a valid reason why they were hacked. Then compliance audit coordinator, somebody who will coordinate the audit, and a record and log, audit log specialist, somebody who will record and keep the logs for audits. Because these are what will be needed by an external agency should they decide to investigate you. Okay? See, there are typically very high level 6 steps road to full compliance. The management buy-ins start with company has to, somebody is asking who has to start first. Well, the senior management has to accept that they need to do this audit. The second step is to do an internal gap analysis. How far are we open? What is the gap between what is needed and what we have? Okay, this is the first step to understand what needs to be done if you figure out what is the gap. Then based on the gap, a specific roadmap will have to be created to say, okay, this is the gap and this is the roadmap that we will do individually to make sure this gap is closed. Then we implement the roadmap, so practical implementation to close the gap. Then conducting a post-implementation audit to figure out was the gap closed or it's still open. You verify the gap closure. And then this practice of fixing the gap and validation continues till you are comfortable with the gaps having been closed. Now this I am talking about only data fiduciaries. Significant data fiduciaries will have to bring in external auditors in this process. A company, a large company, doesn't want to be rated, doesn't want to be fined, will have to do these steps iteratively to make sure they are covered. What does that tell us? That this is a 24/7, 365-day job. Traditional, and we'll come to that in a moment. So, okay, so this is there. Now this is the reality. See, coming back here, we look at the bottom line. 2 to 6 require highly trained DPDP auditors. Okay, a role which has catastrophic shortages. The reality is there are these many trained auditors available today. It's not anyone's fault. This is a new area, right? How is it possible that people will know what to do, how to do? It is there, right? The problem is lack of trained auditors can stall the DPDP Act rollout. Okay. Organization may be ready to comply, but they will lack specialized talent to help them along the way. This is where I feel, I am sure you are starting to understand where your people like yourself can fit in. What is the opportunity? Training the chartered accountants to conduct various DPDP audit related activities and also to do cyber breaches audit for data protection. That is the opportunity that is available to all of us here. Second last part, cyber breaches audit. I'm repeating a slide which we saw earlier. Reasonable safety security guard safeguards, encryption, masking and obfuscation, and access control protocol, data backup, continuous monitoring of logs and maintenance to detect and prevent unauthorized access. These are general guidelines. A lot of them are followed by such standard cyber security departments, and yet they keep getting hacked. Okay. And while these have been mentioned in good faith, they will not be able to protect any organization. And since the penalty will be charged based on the act of getting breached, you were breached. But sir, we had obfuscation, we had masking, we had this, but you were breached. Why were you breached? Let me ask you, how many of you know why a breach happens? Any thoughts?
The servers are not protected.
Sorry?
Servers are not protected. Servers are not protected.
Servers are not protected, okay. Anyone else?
There is a vulnerability and there is lack of awareness of it.
Lack of awareness, yes.
Why would somebody hack?
Why would somebody hack?
Yeah.
Because the data is gold.
One is data is good. Number two is that most of the things happens like, I have penetrated your system, I need ransom. So from that point of view, why they are doing it is primarily to milk out.
Right, they take your data, that's the idea. See
Not the data, but you are vulnerable, so I see a potential to put you into trouble, so giving you.
No, there may be some sadists also who may like to put you in trouble. More than sadism, data is money. People sell records for $1, $2 each. So imagine if you take away 100,000 records, you make a seriously a good amount of money, right? So why shouldn't you? You shouldn't, because you don't want to be on the side of getting penalized with 250 crores. I mean, why would you be happy that hacker made $100,000, I should be happy for him? Why? He stole my data. No. The reason hacks happen is very simple. I'll explain it to you in a slightly divergent way. When I lock my house and come out, I have this habit and my son laughs at me. I will pull the lock once to ensure that the lock is locked. And my son asks me, Dad, are you okay? Why it is locked? I said, that is what I am ensuring, is it locked? But cannot you see? I said, no. Sometimes it is inside, but it is not locked. So he thinks I am getting old, which is true. I am getting old. Nothing about that. But you see what I am trying to do? I am trying to be vigilant about a lock. Why? Because that door is the sole access point into my house. If my house had a back door and a side door and another door, I would be worried about making sure all those doors are locked. In good olden days when we had houses in the village, there were more than one doors. I have never seen a village house with only one door. No matter how small, how poor the house, there are at least two doors, one in the back, one in the front. And if you are locking, you have to make sure both are covered. You leave one open, something will go missing. So breaches happen because you have left an entry point open. Whether knowingly left it or unknowingly left it. Breaches happen only because what I call breach points exist in your network. The saddest part of life, since I am basically a cyber security and cyber safety consultant, very trained, highly trained, educated, experienced cyber security specialists do not understand this concept. They think I have this consultant, IBM consultant, Cisco consultant came and told me install this, and I read a Gartner report and I read a Forrester report. They said do this, I have done that, but I still got breached. The point is they are not interested in keeping you safe, they are interested in selling their products to you. Okay? So I asked them a question. Cyber safety is very much like health, right? So there are about roughly 70 different kinds of cyber security products. Okay, there may be different brands, but you know, like firewall, there are one type. There are so many 70 odd categories of products. So I asked this CISO, you can ask the CISO of your company. Make sure you ask this in presence of the CEO and tell me what the answer is. You ask them, sir, there are 70 kinds of cyber security products available, solutions available. If you were given enough money to implement all of them in the company, would we be completely unhackable? What do you think will be his answer? Why? It is like going to the doctor and telling, doctor, I don't want to fall sick ever in my life. So whatever medicines and injections you have, give them to me. So now I'll be Superman, no falling sick. Is it a sensible idea? Cybersecurity is like that. Cybersecurity is product and solution based. Implement this, implement that, and the entire industry is focused on marketing, not your cyber safety. Few CISOs are realizing and they are changing this. Your safety is in your hand. Another company will not come and make you safe. They will be interested. Please sign the check, sir. I will give you a product. Okay. So what is the thing you need to figure out? Are there any open doors in my network? And then you close the door. If you close the door, the chances of any hacker coming in reducing. I have just put these together. These are actual cut and paste from the gazettes, section 8.5. A data fiduciary shall protect personal data in its possession or under its control, including in respect of any processing undertaken by it or on its behalf by a data processor by taking reasonable security safeguard, which is the understatement of the time. You don't know what it means. What is reasonable? Okay? To prevent data breach. The rule 6, which is the lower part, says reasonable security safeguard. Data fiduciary shall protect personal data in its possession or under its control, including in respect of any processing undertaken by it or on its behalf by a data processor by taking reasonable security safeguard to prevent personal data breach, which shall include at the minimum. Now remember this catchword, at the minimum. They have not said only this or maximum this, at the minimum. You must have appropriate data security measures such as securing of personal data through encryption, obfuscation, masking, or use of virtual tokens mapped to that personal data. Right? Ask any data, actually they are not there. If you ask the data protection board, well, when they are formed, will this prevent data breaches? They'll say no, we have given you the minimum. What will prevent is you have to take care. And nobody knows where the law says that you have to take care. They are going to hold you responsible and they are going to penalize you if the breach happens. What do you think the company should do? Come on, tell me. What do you think the company should do? Should they do bare minimum, or should they make a real effort to protect their data? If they are interested in not getting fined, they have to do more than that and protect their data. It's a given. Though most companies, when you talk to your own company, they will say, no, this is good enough, good enough. Till the date, first company gets fined, then everyone will suddenly wake up. Okay? Smart people will wake up now and protect their data. Other people will hope that somebody will get fined and then they will wake up. This question I am asking, is it enough? All cyber security professionals know that data breaches happen despite all these measures being taken. And those of you who are also doing some parallel studies in cyber security, contact me and I will send you actual media references where cases have been reported, encrypted data stolen. You know why encrypted data is such a popular thing to be stolen? Any idea, any guesses?
quantum might break.
Sorry?
In future, quantum might break those.
There you go, genius. What is happening is, the moment you encrypt your data, the CISO will think, aha, I can rest now. What will they do? Take it. The point is, that data, the moment you encrypt it, is less protected than other data which is not encrypted. Because they think nothing can be done. Quantum technology, quantum computing is coming, and hackers are now doing something called steal now, decrypt later. SNDL. It's a process. They are collecting huge amount of data, encrypted data, and keeping it. Because quantum computing is just around the corner. Already companies are showing good results, and quantum computing will be able to, biggest strength of quantum computing will be decryption. It will be able to run millions of combinations of decryption key in a fraction of a second. You see, that is the challenge in encryption and decryption, that to decrypt data takes enormously long time if you do it the normal way, the mathematical models. Quantum will be able to do it a few million times faster. So what would take 1 million years to finish, will finish in 5 seconds. So is any encrypted data going to be safe? How many people know it? Actually, one person in your group knew it. You knew it. Good. But this is going to happen. So Data Protection Board will also change its tune once it gets formed. When people start talking to them, a lot of experts like you and others will tell them, look, change your stance on this, add this, modify this. This law will mature. But should we wait for it, or should we take action now? Is the choice we have. Our contention is data safety can only be achieved by closing breach points, and a cyber breach risk audit is conducted to reveal the breach points. Where are the breach points from where a hacker can enter? If we understand that, we can close those breach points. Right? So this is a very, very high level pictorial view of the CBRA framework. We look at hardware. Are there any breach points in hardware? I don't know if you're aware, there was a phenomenal case long back when American hackers entered a country's nuclear processing facility where uranium was being enriched. Uranium enrichment happens with very high speed centrifuges, you know. Those centrifuges run at like 30,000 RPM. Okay? They are very highly balanced, and each centrifuge costs millions of dollars. They are very difficult to procure, but they are required because enrichment means U-235, uranium-235 being very heavy, it settles towards the bottom of the centrifuge, lighter elements move to the front, and that is how uranium enrichment is done. So what did these fellows do? They entered the nuclear facility through hacking, and they entered the controller of the centrifuges, and what did they do? They removed the safety on the top speed. So the centrifuge, which is supposed to not run faster than 30,000 RPM, was running at 40, 50, 80,000 RPM. They blew apart. Entire enrichment cycle of that nation, and I'm sure you can guess that nation, finished in 5 minutes. That was the world's first hardware hacking. Once they had proved that can be done, all other hardware, simple things like your desktop, my desktop are like that. Okay? Software. We all use software. We use operating systems. You are accountants, so you use Tally, you use SAP, you use different accounting systems, right? Did you know that all software have bugs in it already when you buy it? And those bugs can take action anytime. The manufacturer may know about them, may not know about them, but they have not removed them. They exist. The best part is hackers know about them. So hackers use them to enter. Okay, very big, humongous hack happened with IBM. 2023, IBM had a hack on one of its software, which was being run for the state of Massachusetts in US for their healthcare services. The state healthcare services was using their software, IBM software. What happened? The IBM software was using an application programming interface from a third party. That programming interface did file transfer. They would take a file and transfer it to some other location. Right? I'm sure you would have used file transfer facilities in various places. They were using automatic, so it happened in back. Somebody uploads a medical record, the file transfer facility will take it and put it somewhere else. Right? There was a bug in that application programming interface, and the hacker entered through that, and 5 million records, patient records, health records were stolen. At that time I was in US, I was presenting to IEEE, and there were a lot of people on that seminar, and one person stopped me and said, you know something? I said, yeah. My record was one of those 5 million. An old man, and he was very upset, and he couldn't do anything about it. Because in the United States and therefore in India, we copy United States, foreign is always better. There is no law against software being buggy. If your car is defective, you can sue the company. The car will be called back. If your fridge is defective, you can sue the company, or the fridge has to be replaced. If your software is defective, the company says, oops, and you can't do anything. This is the law in the United States, therefore it's the same law in Europe, it's the same law in India. So that gentleman could not do anything. Now with DPDP, because if the data gets stolen, that gentleman, if he was in India, could do something. Right? Because DPDP would have fined them and then he would take them to court saying you were negligent service and therefore you owe me. Right? So that is the software. The network. Network is the most porous place. Any defect in the programming of network or the switches or any hardware, if you don't program it well, will leave the doors open. The worst case, the biggest culprit, users. 95% of breaches happen because of human problems. I ask you a question. I'm assuming all of you represent or work for organizations which have more than 10 employees, am I right? Correct? Let me ask you, those companies are not chartered accountant companies, right? You are working for clients, correct? How many of them have trained their employees to be cyber safe? Your company has?
We do, sir.
No, you do is not the point. Does your company, the client, has it retained you to do it for them? Because you may offer it. Offering is irrelevant. If nobody takes up your offer, I'm asking for client companies, banks, hospitals, schools, institutions, whichever institution, ICIs, have they trained their employees to be cyber safe? Why? This users group accounts for 95% of breaches. And yet, nobody wants to train people to be cyber safe. You see the challenges the safety part of the DPDP Act is going to take, which means that if organizations have to remain cyber safe, one of the things that they will have to do is train their employees to be cyber safe, which is a separate curriculum altogether. But these are non-technical stuff. You have to train them at a different level. You can't talk to them about IP addresses and systems processes. They are not going to understand it, right? So that is why this traditional thing of encryption and other things will not work. Cyber safety is a bigger thing, and this is where people like you and me can play a significant role in keeping data protected. The same thing repeated all over again, so I'm not going to waste time on this. So what are the chances of successful rollout of the DPDP Act? Chances are very minimal. There is no DPP yet, there are no auditors available, there is no established process. There is an extreme shortage of knowledgeable auditors and knowledge.
But since there's GDPR already, there is US privacy laws, knowledge-wise or the composition-wise, or that, is...
Yeah, but are you going to call people from Europe to work for you?
I'm not. But what I'm trying to tell is, it's a copy.
No, yes, copy-paste is good. But how many copy-paste organizations are available today? How many people have started that act? All I'm saying is, somebody has to start that, since it's not Government of India. Do you agree? Are there there any other challenges that come to your mind about DPDP rollout? Do you think it's ever going to be successful?
It will be, but as you said, casting for.
Eventually it will be.
Yeah, it will be because DPDP Act came because there is a necessity for it. So it's the role of the government to push it, and the more the government pushes it, all the paraphernalia will start gathering pace and it will fall in place. But what happens with any new law that comes? GST was supposed to be a good one when it was introduced, and within 1 year it went through amendment and people started gathering pace.
Because that was finances.
Yeah, correct. But yeah, here also it will happen. It will happen.
Eventually.
Yeah, eventually it will happen. But are we ready now? Are we going to be ready in 2 years now? Only happen.
Yeah, only time will tell unless people like you and me take decisive action and start taking up the challenge as a part of the industry. There are benefits. We'll go to that quickly now. The strategic role of CAs, okay? Why CAs can lead this effort is because you have the heritage of audit. You know what to do. You're used to auditing. Right? You're used to looking at data, following the process, finding gaps, loopholes, closing them. There's a process, systematic process that you have in mind. You already have an audit mindset which you can apply to DPDP audits. And one very significant thing which is in green, if it's not readable, tell me, I'll tell you, is scalability. How many of you know how many CAs are registered with ICAI?
How many seats? Over 3 lakh to 4 lakh.
3 lakh. Anyone else?
4 lakhs.
5 lakhs. 6 lakhs. Anyone for 7 lakhs? Okay, so the real figure is around 5 lakh 40 something thousand. Okay, which is a significant number. If you remember my table where it said the number of jobs, new jobs that will be created is around 1 lakh 47,000. Even if I am wrong and it is 2 lakhs, CAs are enough to be able to fulfill those gaps. Right? Why CAs? Because like I said, you already have a mindset of audit, you understand the process, you understand the rigor and the care that an auditor must take to make sure that the audit is done properly. CAs excel at understanding complex data flows and internal controls. Because every business, and I'm not blaming anyone, I'm just saying a general thing, would like to make sure that their money is kept hidden from taxes. A lot of people are very creative, but ultimately CAs are able to capture them, catch them, and see, okay, we caught where your data flow is going. Okay? They have a natural tendency to be skeptical. They do not accept data at the face value. Why? Because their name is associated. They will sign on the audit. They are skeptical, they are careful. They understand the importance of governance at the board level, right? And they are comfortable with reporting at that level to be able to tell people what is going on. Very important part of the DPDP Act is contract reviews, because businesses live in relationship with other companies, other data processors, whether customer data principals or whoever. Auditors are comfortable doing contract reviews as a part of your financial audits. So nothing is new. Only the flavor is changing. Instead of looking at financial data, now you are looking at data processes related to personal identifiable information. It is, in my mind, natural extension of the CA practice. Right? We have just listed stuff here like HR data, customer data, vendor contracts, okay, financial records. There's a little bit of overtyping on that. But basically, what we are trying to say is, CAs have handled all of this as a part of their job. Most important, there are times in a year when CAs are extraordinarily busy, and then there are times in the year when CAs are not busy. Like whenever there is a statutory requirement for audit and closure, you are very busy. And we have, on the first line on the right hand side, March, April, May, September, October, or months the typical CA is very busy. Other months there is a certain degree of freedom available. We recommend that CAs consider using the other time for doing DPDP audit for their organizations. Because today there is no mandatory requirement of doing it only in the month of April like financial accounting. Right? It can be done in variety of different months. So there are optimal windows available where you can do it. And the lower part, optimal window, shows those months that you can start. You can take up those things as a part of adding to your career opportunity. So what should you do? Decide on the role. There were a lot of roles we had mentioned. Which role do you individually feel comfortable with playing? Get trained.